Let's begin with a body scan. So lying on your back, with your legs extended out and your eyes are closed. So let's begin bringing your attention to your feet. So as you lie there, notice, does one foot feel heavy on the ground compared to the other? Or does one foot feel as if it's flopped out to the side and the other foot is pointing up towards the ceiling? And then you may like to just notice what you feel internally or somatically. Does it match what you see externally? So you may like to open your eyes and just carefully lift your head and notice if what you feel internally or somatically looks like what your feet appear like externally. And then when you've done that, just close your eyes and pop your head back on the floor. And then from there, just travel along your legs, and as you do, notice if one leg's heavier on the ground compared to the other. All the way to your glutes. And if we just stop here at your glutes, just notice, does one glute feel more tense or tight compared to the other? Or do you feel as if one hip is hitched up higher than the other? Or do you feel as if your tailbone is tucked up and under? Or do you feel that your bottom or your tailbone is sticking back into the ground? If you're not too sure, just travel to the small of your back, into the lower part there, and just slide your hands into the small of your back and notice if there's a fair bit of distance between your body and the floor, or if you feel that your lower back is pretty much flat on the ground. So this is going to give us an indication to if your tailbone is tucked up and under, or if your bottom is sticking out. And then once you've noticed the level of difference or tightness in your lower back there, just rest your arms back by your side and travel along your back all the way to your shoulders. And notice, do both shoulder blades feel as if they're resting and settled on the ground? Or does one or both of the shoulders feel as if they're peeled off the floor, heading towards the ceiling, as if those very tight muscles in your chest are pulling your shoulders off the floor? And then from there, just slowly travel along the sides of your neck to your head and notice where your head position naturally rests. Do you feel as if your nose is in line with your pubic bone, or do you feel that your head is rolled off to one side? Do you notice if your chin is tucked in, or does it feel as if it's jutting up towards the ceiling? And so just take that general scan from your head all the way to your feet and notice, if you were lying on a memory foam mattress, where would you say the deepest impression would be? And make a note of that. And as we continue with today's session, we'll return to this scan and just notice if things are changing for you. Okay, so from here, can you just bend your legs so your feet are flat on the floor? Now, before we start some somatic movements here, I'd like to just bring your awareness to the very tight muscle that can develop and start to create that stooping or that hunched over posture. And so even if you're doing this for the second or third or many more times from the original time you've heard this message, this is still a really good practice for you to notice the muscle that we're wanting to contract and then slowly relax. So if you can get your right hand and just with your fingertips, can you just find that muscle which finishes, or should I say it starts, at the bottom of your breastbone? So it's that nice squishy part right at the bottom of your breastbone, at just the top of the muscle there. That's the start of your six-pack muscle. And then with your left hand, can you get your fingers and just place them down by your pubic bone? So it's right towards the other end of that root of the muscle. Okay, now we're just going to do a little experiment here so you can see the position or the behavior of this muscle when your head is slumped forward. Okay, so with your fingers in these two spots, so just below the breastbone and on your pubic bone, can you very slowly and very subtly just lift your head probably only a centimetre off the floor? And as you do, can you feel the contraction under your fingers? And then very slowly just rest your head back to the floor. And again, if you want to do this one more time, and you might not even want to actually bring your head off the floor this time, just create the intention that you want to lift your head off the floor and notice how both ends of the muscle contract. So as you think about this on a daily basis, if you're walking around or you're sitting at a computer or any other pose with your head slumped over the midline, so slumped forward, can you see that over time, both ends of this muscle are going to get tighter and they're going to pull the muscle shorter, so you create more of a stooped pose. So today we're going to reverse that. We're going to teach the muscle to release and soften so that we can stand more upright and less slouched. So just place your arms by your side now, and let's just start to do some nice deep breaths. So can you breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth? So just breathe nice and deeply as we start to slow down your central nervous system. We go into that rest and digest phase. This is when your brain is more conducive to learning new information. So keep this nice deep rhythm of breathing going, and we're going to start to bring some movement in with your pelvis. So as you inhale, can you slowly and gently and subtly roll your tailbone towards the floor? So you're going to create a small arch in your lower back. And then exhale and just bring your hips back to neutral. So let's just do this a few more times, very small if we need to. Inhale and arch, and just make it a small arch. All we want to do is create a mild contraction in your lower back. And then as you exhale, let's just return your hips back to neutral. So now we soften the muscles in your lower back. And again, as you inhale and arch, focus on allowing your belly to swell like a balloon. So allow your belly to pop out. And then as you exhale, return to neutral. So as you do it this time, notice that when you actually allow your belly to relax and soften and swell, see how that increases the arch in your lower back without having to forcefully push or poke or stretch or tug any of the lower back and also yank your pelvis. We don't need to do that. We just need to teach one side of your back to contract, and at this point we're allowing your belly to lengthen and release. So just bring yourself back to neutral. And once you're in neutral, let's now go the other way. So can you take a nice deep breath in to prepare? And then as you exhale, can you draw your ribs and your pubic bone towards each other? So you're going to flatten your back into the ground and notice how we're contracting the six-pack muscle. And then as you inhale, come out of that pose into neutral. Let your brain find where neutral really is. And again, as we exhale, we're going to draw the ribs and the pubic bone towards each other. And as we inhale, back to neutral. So if you'd like to use that prompt like we did at the beginning, placing your fingers of your right hand just underneath that the breastbone area, so where the six-pack muscle starts, and then with your left hand, the fingers down by your pubic bone, notice that the next time you exhale and you draw your ribs and your pubic bone towards each other, can you feel the muscle contract under your fingers? And then as you inhale and you come out of that pose to neutral, can you feel the muscles soften? And again, as you exhale, collapse in through the center. Now this time, as you inhale, let's go through neutral into the arch. If you've got your fingers on your belly still and on that whole six-pack muscle, notice the contrast. As you then exhale and you draw your ribs and your pubic bone towards each other, you open and lengthen your lower back. As you tighten through the front, feel the contraction under your fingers. And then as you inhale and arch, notice the softening of the muscle under your fingers as you allow your belly to pop out as your lower back contracts. And so just continue keeping this movement going, and just place your arms by your side so your shoulders are fully relaxed. And create that lovely rhythmical wave-like action. Inhale and arch. And then as you exhale, with ribs and the pubic bone towards each other. And we flatten and we spread your lower back into the ground as we show the brain that the front contracts. And then notice as we inhale and arch, we now lengthen the front of your body as we contract the back of your body. So it's movement integration. We're teaching your brain when one side contracts, the other side should relax. And as you continue to do this action, let's just bring some movement of your shoulders into this. So as you inhale and arch, can you press both shoulders into the ground? Notice how that increases the arch further towards your shoulders. And then as you exhale and your ribs draw down towards your pubic bone, notice how your shoulders roll forward with the action, like we're hunched over the computer. And again, as we inhale and arch, we have that sergeant major pose, that call to attention as we press the shoulders into the ground. But then we reverse that position and we hunch and we draw everything forward as we tighten through the front and lengthen through your back. And notice your head. Can we get movement happening in your head as we do this? So as you inhale and arch, can you tuck your chin in? And then as you exhale and you slump forward, can you allow your chin to jut towards the ceiling as if engrossed on the computer monitor, looking at what's on the monitor? And then as we inhale and arch, we tuck the chin in as we have that sergeant major pose. So can you feel that rhythmical movement from the base of your spine all the way through to the top of your head? We're increasing movement through your body, improving the shock absorbency through your joints, and teaching your brain when to contract the muscles and when to relax. And then slowly bring everything back to a nice neutral position there. And when your hips are in neutral, you may like to just place your hands on your hips. So placing your hands into that fleshy area between your hips and the bottom of your ribs. Okay, now we're just going to notice here the actions of the waist muscle. So if you walk around and you load into one foot more than the other, you're going to notice one hip is tighter than the other. So let's see if we can teach your brain where neutral actually is. So to begin with, let's take a nice deep breath with your hips in neutral. And then as you exhale, can you gently slide your right hip toward your right armpit? So it's just a small contraction. Can you feel that under your fingers of your right hand? And then inhale and slowly bring your hips back to neutral and rest. And let's do that again. So inhale to prepare. This time maybe you can do half the effort of the last hitch. As you exhale, just slowly hitch your right hip towards your right armpit. And as you inhale, slowly and smoothly allow your brain to recall this information as you bring your hips back to neutral. Okay, so just continue to work on your right side. But as you go into your hitch, can you make sure that your back isn't overarching or it isn't flattening into the ground? If you notice it's doing this, can you make the movement smaller? All we want to get is that nice little wiggle of your hips. So we're going to be drawing your hip up towards your armpit and back to neutral. So keep it slow. The slower you make this, the more you can read the movement of your body again. Okay, now bring your hip back to neutral when you finish that pose. And let's look at your left side. So this time let's inhale to prepare. Now as you exhale, can you now slide your left hip towards your left armpit? And then as you inhale, slowly and smoothly bring your hips back to neutral. Let your brain find where neutral actually is. And just rest there. And again, let's do that. So as we exhale, we're going to draw your left hip towards your left armpit, making sure that we aren't overarching or flattening our back into the ground. And just inhale as we come back to neutral. Notice, is it smooth as you come back to neutral, or do you notice some little jerks? If you do, we're trying to override those habitual patterns of muscle tightness your brain has produced. And again, we inhale to prepare. And as we exhale, we slide your left hip towards your left armpit. And slowly, as we inhale, we allow your brain to notice where neutral is as we soften the muscles on the left side of your waist. And let's just finish the last one there on your left-hand side. Bring it back to neutral. And now let's alternate. So let's start with your hips in neutral. Inhale to prepare. And as you exhale, slide your right hip towards your right armpit and allow your head to roll towards your right hip, so towards that right-hand side. Inhale back to neutral and bring your head back to neutral. As you exhale, hitch your left hip towards your left armpit and allow your head to roll to the left-hand side. Notice how that head roll just deepens the contraction through the side of your body. Inhale, hips and head come back to neutral. And as we exhale, let's then hitch on the right side and allow your head to roll to the right-hand side too. And just keep this movement going. So as one side of your body contracts, notice how the other side lengthens and opens. And as you go from one side to the other, just be mindful and notice, do you feel one side is a little stiffer or tighter? And if it is, just make that movement smaller. Remember, the more we pandiculate, the more we contract, relax, and release all this tightness, we will increase our range of movement. We don't need to stretch. And then slowly bring your head back to neutral and your hips back to neutral. And then just lower your legs down with your eyes closed. And let's just do a scan here and notice what's shifting and changing for you with your muscles. This is an opportunity to get your brain to notice what's starting to soften and relax. So imagine you're on that memory foam mattress and you were to be magically lifted off that mattress. Where would you say the deepest impressions are now? Has that changed? And then once you've noticed, let's just bend your legs so your feet are flat on the floor again. And let's just develop the movement that we've just worked and increase more action of your shoulders and your legs, which are applicable to working at a computer all day, and things can get very tight through your neck and shoulders. So let's begin again with an inhale and arch. And as you inhale and arch, roll your tailbone towards the floor, allowing your belly to pop out, tucking your chin in and pressing your shoulders into the ground. And then as you exhale, draw your ribs and your pubic bone towards each other. Allow your shoulders to roll with the rib action and allow your chin to jut towards the ceiling. And just do this a couple more times, so get back into the rhythm so your brain remembers this arch and flatten or this pelvic roll action. So as one side contracts, the other side relaxes. Now when you're ready, let's start to increase this action with more arm movement. So the next time you inhale and arch, can you press your shoulders into the ground and let your arms roll out along the floor as if like rolling pins. And then as you exhale, roll your arms inward as if the back of your hands are facing the body. And again, as you inhale and arch, roll your arms out so your hands are facing, the palms are facing out. And as you exhale, roll your arms in so the back of your hands are facing your body. and your shoulders are rolling forward. As you inhale, roll your arms out. So your shoulders are pressing into the ground. And keep this action going and allow both of the shoulders to press into the ground as you roll your arms out. And as you exhale, roll your shoulders and your forearms and your hands all the way in. So just ensure that your hands and your arms are quite close to your body. That as you roll back and forth, you'll notice that the closer your arms are to your body, you get a greater rolling forward and an improved pressing your shoulders and rolling your arms out. And let's add to this movement further. So the next time you inhale and arch and you roll your arms out and you tuck your chin in, can you allow your knees just to float out to the side? So you're going to roll on the outside of your feet. So your knees are going to go out. And then as you exhale and you roll your shoulders in and you tuck your tailbone and your ribs towards each other, allow your knees to touch with a mild squeeze of your inner thigh. And then as you inhale and arch, let your knees separate as you roll on the outside of your feet, almost looking like a frog's leg, resembling that action. And then as you exhale, your knees come in together. So we create a gentle inner thigh squeeze, but without switching your glutes on. So there shouldn't be a massive contraction or tightness through your glutes. And as you move in and out of this pose, notice how it resembles a flower. So as we inhale and arch, notice the knees drop out to the side, the arms roll out, the chin tucks in, and we open the flower. And then as we exhale, we roll your shoulders in, we tuck your tailbone towards your ribs, your chin juts up towards the ceiling, and your knees come in together. So we close the flower. And again, as you inhale and arch, we open the flower. And ensure that as your knees go out to the side, they go within a movement range that's comfortable for you. If you make this movement too big, you're going to create muscle cramp or going to create a muscle spasm. So listen to the feedback from your body. Don't push through pain. Work within a movement range that's comfortable for you. And then slowly bring everything back to neutral. And then just lower your legs down to the floor. Close your eyes. And for the final time, let's just do a full body scan. So with your eyes closed, let's bring your awareness to your feet. And notice, does one foot still feel heavier on the ground compared to the other? Or has that changed? And then travel from your legs all the way to your glutes. And as you do, notice if one leg is still heavier on the ground compared to the other. Or has that changed? And how are your glutes feeling? Do they still feel tense and tight? Or do they feel relaxed and soft? And what about the position of your pelvis? Does that feel as if that's shifted or changed? Do you still feel as if one hip is higher than the other? Do you feel that your tailbone is tucked up and under? Or do you feel that your bottom is sticking out? And like we did earlier, let's just slide our hands into the small of our back to get an idea of the distance between your body and the floor and the level of tension in your lower back. So just notice, has that changed from earlier? And then travel from your lower back all the way to your shoulders. And notice, do your shoulders feel fully relaxed on the ground? Has that changed from earlier? And as you travel from your shoulders to along the sides of your neck to your head, notice your head position. Has that changed? Does your nose feel more in line with your pubic bone? And where is your head naturally positioned? Is your chin tucked in, or is your chin jutting up towards the ceiling? And again, if you were just to scan through from your head all the way to your feet, notice where the deepest impression on that memory foam mattress would be now. Has that changed from the initial scan? Does your brain notice more muscles now? Does your brain notice more of the muscle now? Does it feel as if it's fully relaxed? And then when you're ready, just bend your legs so your feet are flat on the floor. Roll onto one side, and then use your hands to slowly walk yourself up to a seated position as we finish today's session.